Hello there, Dare to Soar. It is Sharon. I hope everybody is having a great week. I can't believe that June is almost over. Well, yesterday I said that I would come in and share some information about self liberation. And I didn't have a chance to do it, but I wanted to do it today because self liberation is an ongoing process. It's a process of uh, self understanding, self worth, self evaluation. It's a process that takes a lifetime. So I wanted to give you some tips on how to think about yourself and how to participate in your own self liberation so that you can have a life that makes your heart sing. Hey, Petra. So, if you have a piece of paper, I want you to think about and take some notes because I will be popping in the group during the month of June and July to talk about this thing about self liberation because self liberation is multi layered, is multi-dimensional, is multi-leveled, and when we are able to peel back the layers, we're able to live a life of greater joy and abundance. So, what does and how does one move from self imprisonment to self liberation? The first thing I want you to write down is the first step is self awareness. Now, people always say that they know who they are, but I want to submit to you that since we came to this world, we all have been molded and shaped and conditioned and programmed and traumatized and manipulated and tricked and punished and pressured to be who other people wanted us to be. From our parents to authority figures to society, we have been coerced and controlled to conform to what people wanted us to be and to do. So when we talk about self-awareness, hey John, hey Elise, self-awareness is not so easy. It's that unpeeling process when we have to understand who we are not, what we need, what we want, what we desire, how we are wired, because we all are wired to win differently. And so when we start thinking about self-liberation, you can never have liberation if you don't know who you are. And we never really know that who we are because we are a moving target, because we are always under construction. That's why we always have to be asking ourselves the tough questions and to go into deep reflection and to deep analysis so we know not only our social selves but our essential selves so that we can know more than what people expect us to be. We can know who God created us to be. So self-awareness is a process. We have to peel back all of our stuff, our credentials, our education, our social norms, our paradigms, all these other things that have contaminated our very essence, who God created us to be. And that's why until we are able, hey Cheryl, to know who we are, our true selves, our essential selves, not our social selves, not our public personas, not our public platforms, not who people think we are, not who even we say that we are, but who God says that we are. That is the first step into self-liberation. One is self-awareness. Who are you without your stuff, your external stuff, external validation? Who are you without your stuff, right? The second thing that is required, I'm having a hot flash, so just want to let you know if I start sweating, can't help it, that requires us to really know who we are is to own who we are. Owning who you are means that only you define who you are. It means that you don't allow yourself to be coerced or seduced to being who someone else wants you to be. And owning who you are really takes a place of courage, and it takes a place of clarity. Because I hear people all the time say, well, you know what? I'm going to follow my heart. But don't follow your heart if you don't know what's in your heart. And some of us don't know what's in our heart because we have never done that self-reflection. But you can't own who you are if you don't know what your purpose is, what what your divine commission is, what you are anointed to do and consecrated to do. And you have to own it and not allow someone to manipulate you or to terrorize you to giving up your power. You have to own it. You have to own your strengths, own it, own your weaknesses, own your brilliance, own your beauty, own your scars, own your weaknesses, own your strengths. You have to own all of who you are. Because when you disown who you are, you disown your own power. When you try to not accept who you are, you don't embrace your power. You are this and that. You are daylight and darkness. You are generous and greedy. You are loving and low down. You are spiritual and sexual. So you are not this and that. You're this and you're this, not this or that. You're this and that. We have to accept both of that. Hey, Cheryl and Cece and Lucy. So you have to own who you are. That means that you don't accept labels. You don't accept obligations. You don't accept any type of expectations. You don't let people impose their will on your identity. Your identity is your own. So you have to have self-awareness. You have to own who you are, not allow somebody to impose their impression, their understanding, their knowledge of who you are. And the A stands for you have to activate who you are. Activate means that you have to get in motion. I think sometimes I hear people say, well, I am this, I am that, but they're not doing anything. Declaration without demonstration means nothing. If you say that you are whoever you say you are, that means that you're not only saying it, but you're doing it, because the power and the confidence comes from the doing. So I want us to look at our lives and say, are we doing what we say we're doing? Are we operating under the understanding of the label that we have identified ourselves? So I want you to ask yourself, are you activating? Are you doing what you're saying you are? And are you advocating for yourself? Because if you're not advocating for yourself and you're not operating in your full authority, in your full agency, you will be manipulated. You will be conditioned. You will be seduced. You will be so enamored by other people that you will fail to walk in your divinity. So I want us to ask ourselves, are we activating ourselves? Are we advocating for ourselves? Are we operating in our authority, in our agency, even if it means that we have to risk rejection? Even if it means that we don't have friends, even if it means we don't get applause or validation and all those types of things, I want you to ask yourself, are you willing to own yourself and advocate in yourself, even if it means you have to stand alone? So that's one of the things we have to think about. And then the R stands for, are you reevaluating who you are? Self-liberation requires constant evaluation and reevaluation. Because a new vision, when God gives you a new vision, that means you have to be a new version of who you are. I'm going to say that again. When God gives you a new vision, you have to become a new version of who you are. That means that you just can't have a transfer. You have to have a transformation. And so transformation means that you're not just changing stuff on the outside, you're changing who you are on the inside. So often when people make transfers and they take their bad mentality to a new locality versus having a transformation, a renewing of our mind. And so I want you to ask yourself, are you having a renewing of your mind? Are you having a reevaluation? Are you understanding that a new vision requires a new version, and a new self requires a new strategy? You cannot be a new self with an old strategy. You cannot be a new self with old types of support. That's why you need new friends. You can't be a new self with an old structure. You cannot be a new self with an old understanding. Everything new requires something new. And so we have to ask ourselves, are we always moving toward who we say we should be, who we have identified ourselves to be? And if we're not, how can we reevaluate ourselves so we don't become stagnant, that we don't get stuck in ruts and ruin and abandon our divine assignments, right? So I want you to think about self-liberation. I want you to understand it's a process, it's a journey, and it will take time, because just think about it. You have been programmed for decades. And so that programming is not going to happen with a prayer and overnight. It didn't take you 50 years to get yourself in this situation, and you're not going to get out of that situation in 50 days. It's going to take years to peel back that onion so that you can know who you are at your essence, your essential self. So again, one, self-awareness. How well do you know yourself without your stuff? How well do you know what you want, what you need, what you desire? How well do you know yourself in a way that you can stand in your power? And how well do you know yourself so that you can put yourselves in perfect environments for you to bloom? If you know yourself, you set yourself up for success. So how well do you know yourself? Self-awareness. Oh, are you willing to own all of who you are, the good and the bad, the blessed and the broke down, at the lovely and the low down? Can you own all who you are in a way that you define who you are? Are you willing to not allow people to impose their expectations on your identity, impose their obligations on your will? Are you willing to own your strength, your weaknesses, own your purpose, even if it means you have to own it by yourself, without support, without friends, without applause, without accolades? Can you own who you are? And then if you can own who you are, can you activate and do what you have been called to do? And can you do it by yourself? Yes, we all want support, but even if you don't have support, do you know who you are? Are you so liberated from the need for popularity? Are you so liberated from the need of profit? Are you so liberated from the need of people pleasing that you can activate and advocate on your own behalf? One of the things that we have to think about is we have to liberate ourselves from popularity, profits, and people pleasing, because that's when you have power. When you don't need people, when you don't need applause, that's when you're powerful. And so we want to ask ourselves, if we're not operating in our full power, is it because we're looking for someone to agree with us? Remember, you don't need a committee to be consecrated. So I want you to think about what you're doing in your life. And then the R is, are you reevaluating yourself? You are not the same person that you were yesterday. And that means if you are growing, how are you nurturing and participating in your own self-development? Are you reevaluating what you know? Because every time you have great exposure to something new, you will have great expansion. Exposure and expansion go together. So that's why you can't be who you were yesterday, because now you know more. Hopefully, if you're paying attention. Yes, sure, you got to advocate for yourself. So ask yourself, are you and how are you reevaluating yourself? Some of us are in jobs that we have outgrown 20 years ago. Some of us are in relationships that were never the right relationships, and we have stayed in them for 30 years. Some of us are in churches that we have outgrown spiritually, because we are not reevaluating if where we are is where we need to be. Some of us are in bodies that we have not reevaluated if they're healthy for us. Some of us have not evaluated our environments. We have to always reevaluate, lest you become and live by default. And every time we live by default, we will live a life of defeat. So I hope this helps. I hope this blesses you. Let's liberate ourselves. And then, hey, Natalie, Regina, and Lucy. And then I also want to encourage you to join me on July 2nd. I'm going to be doing a free masterclass on friends, because some of us have some broke down friends, and we keep bringing people in our lives who don't deserve us because we are hungry for intimacy. And it's kind of like going to the store. Sometimes when you're very hungry, you'll eat crap, and you won't eat what's nutritious because you're hungry. And some of us are hungry for connection. So we keep picking some broke down friends. We allow ourselves to be abused and manipulated and sabotaged because we're yearning for connection. We're thirsty and hungry for connection. Believe me, I have been there. I have dated people who only had a pulse and had no purpose because I was lonely. And they treated me badly, and I allowed them to treat me badly because I was hungry. So that's why we can never get so hungry that we start to mistake trash for treasure, right? Because some of us got some trashy relationships, and we're trying to convince ourselves that they're treasure because we are lonely. So join me for July 2nd, I'm going to be doing a free masterclass about friends. You have to sign up. There will be giveaways, and we will do it on Zoom so we can interact with each other. So thanks so much. I'm so glad that you're here. Remember, liberate yourself. Self-liberation is multi-layered. It's a multi-layered process. It's a multi-dimensional process. It's a multi-functional process, and it's a process that is lifelong. You will never arrive. If you arrive, you should be arriving in a casket. Because you always are growing, so you never reach this apex or this zenith of knowing who you are. You looking and knowing who you are will be a lifelong journey, because you are a treasure chest of possibilities. You are a treasure chest of goodness. You are a treasure chest of greatness. And it will take a whole lifetime for you to uncover how amazing you really are. Yes? So I hope that helps. Please join me July 2nd. I'll put the link in. And also, if you have not gotten my free ebook, It's Time to Climb, get it. Please, I list 16 types of character traits that you want to avoid. 16. So I want you to think about those 16, download the book, and start doing some inventory, because it's time to purge, it's time to prune, because it's time for you to have some power. And you cannot have power without repositioning some people in your life. Yes? So thanks so much. Blessings, blessings, blessings. And I see you on July 2nd. I'll see you next week, but sign up for July 2nd. Blessings. Bye-bye.